Good evening, everybody. We're just waiting for a few more people to join us. I'm just watching the number of participants roll up. So we'll get started in 2 or 3 minutes once everyone's had a chance to join. No, not yes. Yes, we're in the meeting. Yes, you will all be on mute. Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'm getting a few questions flying through already. So I will introduce myself. Kia ora tātou, ko Helen O'Sullivan tōku ingoa. Ka hau te kai whakahaere mātua o Crockers Property Group. My name is Helen O'Sullivan and I'm the Chief Executive of Crockers Property Group. Thank you all very much for joining us here this evening as part of this Community Living Body Corporate webinar. With me this evening I have our General Manager of Community Living / Body Corporate, Victor Jamieson. Victor, good evening.
Good evening, Helen. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming along.
Fantastic. Thanks. Nice to have you all here. Around about a month and a lifetime ago, we had to delay our very first community living seminar, which was supposed to be on community living basics. The date had rolled around for our second seminar, and we thought that there were probably a couple more topical issues to deal with, and hence the decision to make this seminar available for you instead. Since we've all become such experts in Zoom and Teams and GoToWebinar and ClickWebinar and all the other different versions of online meetings, we thought we'd do it this way. So thank you all for joining us. Great to have you here. As we work our way through this evening, we are recording tonight's webinar, so that will be available to attendees after the event. And you are welcome to submit questions to us using the chat, using the Q&A section at the bottom of the screen. We'll try to take questions as we go through, but we've already received a number of queries which we've kind of tried to incorporate and cover off in this webinar. If we don't get to all of them, we will address them after the meeting in our FAQ, which are on our website. We'll do a section there for level 4 to 3, and we'll cover off a lot of them there. And of course, the prompt list, which we're just about to pop up on screen for you, will also be emailed to you. Leilani, could you put that up on screen for us, please? The prompt list. Great. So we'll talk to this as we work our way through this process, and then we'll provide that to you as a copy afterwards, so you will be able to have that to work on. So don't feel you have to write everything down as we talk. You'll get this prompt list tomorrow. Okay, so thank you for that, Leilani. Last week we got greater clarity on what level 3 means for New Zealand, and look, it's fair to say some of the guidance is still evolving. Real estate industry in particular, we're still waiting for a couple of really key points to be clarified about who will be able to go into homes and under what circumstances. So that's sort of still a little bit work in progress. But you will all know as owners in community titled complexes And in that we include body corporates, we include cross leases, company title, resident societies, laneway, all the different types of community living entity that we work with at Crockers. We've got everything from sort of large city centre apartment buildings to 2-unit suburban flats, resident societies with thousands of members, and pretty much almost anything in between. The key thing, of course, is that no one of those is exactly the same, and they all come with their own different features. So the purpose of tonight's seminar and the prompt list is to give you a series of headings that you as a community can work through with your owners committee, with your fellow owners, online of course, in order to help you think through the things that you're going to need to address in your community. So that's the kind of process here. I'm going to do it as a conversation, and then hopefully take some of your questions at the end, and then provide the tools to you later. So let's take it away, Vic.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Helen. I guess just to kick things off, as we moved to level 4, we had AGMs that we moved to have them as virtual meetings. As we move to level 3, will we still keep them as virtual meetings?
Yes, we're still going to need to have the meetings online, committee meetings and AGMs. We've been conducting them on Teams. Been remarkably successful, I must say, and people have really enjoyed not having to commute. I think has been the key benefit for those. So, you know, in this level 3 period, it's still very much, you know, very little physical face-to-face interaction outside of your bubble, and so therefore our meetings will be staying online in the Teams environment.
Yeah, actually, you just made the comment about that word, the bubble, which is very much the focus point through COVID-19. So within complexes, how many bubbles are there? Is it just myself in my little unit, or is it inside my complex? How does that work?
Yeah, it's funny how we've all developed a new lexicon around this, isn't it? And bubble is kind of very much at the core of it. You've got a bubble, you know, your unit, your household is your bubble. Some people sort of felt maybe the whole apartment building was a bubble, and so Unit 304 could hang out with Unit 306 and that would be fine. It's the same really in the sense of being in a street. Number 5 and number 7 in Tuatahi Street is, you know, those are different household bubbles. So your unit, your household is one bubble. You kind of need to treat your building like a bubble which overarches your bubble and manage it that way, but individually your households have still got to stay quite separate.
Right. In a lot of the complexes, there's a lot of common areas, and so cleaning in those areas and disinfecting, is that still something that we need to focus on in level 3? Yeah,
definitely. Cleaning of your common areas really should have continued through 4, and you know it should continue through level 3 as well. You know, the whole sorts of, because those areas are getting getting higher use, all sorts of hygiene and health and safety issues can crop up if they're not dealt with. So that's very much an essential service and should continue.
Right. A lot of complexes have parallel to have communal areas like pools and gyms, communal lounges. In level 4, those were closed off. Should we continue to close them off or open them up in level 3?
They should definitely stay closed in level 3. Yeah. One point with regard to the common area cleaning that I didn't touch on, disinfecting of high touch areas is something that's definitely well worth doing as well. Something we have been investigating just in the last couple of days as we look at the use of keys is small UV wands which can disinfect surfaces that it's not appropriate to wipe with disinfectant, you know, with damp, with liquids. And so that may be an option that's worth considering going through level 3, but also for level 2 and beyond.
Right, and hand sanitizers really become quite a tough thing to get a hold of. At level 3, is it still a good thing to be using?
Hand sanitizer is still a good practice. I know a lot of BCs have been, or a lot of large complexes have been wary of pushing hand sanitizer in the public areas because it is currency. It tends to disappear pretty quickly. If you can provide it in a way which secures it, then it is definitely something that's worth having. Fundamentally, hand sanitizer is your second form of defence, though hand washing, regular hand washing, as soon as you come inside is still the most recommended strategy. And 20 seconds, happy birthday to me, while you're doing it. All that good stuff we've seen on TV.
Right. Just staying on the topic of communal areas, as you go outside, a lot of complexes have gardens, barbecue areas, common courtyards. At level 3, can owners go in and use all those areas?
The gardens one is a really good point, because for many people, for many complexes, the communal garden is the only outdoor space that they've got. You can still use those areas, but you've still got to observe your physical distancing rules and be aware of high touch areas. So if, for example, you have a common communal barbecue in the garden, I would recommend that that's closed for both level 4 and level 3, just because of the possibility of people touching that surface. Basically, if someone else is going to touch it and then you're going to touch it, then you should generally not be using that surface, or only using it in a way that you can immediately wash your hands thereafter. So sitting on the grass is probably okay, but using a communal barbecue, I'd recommend against that.
Yeah, sitting on the grass, for a lot of complexes, the lawns haven't been mown for quite a while and the gardens haven't been kept for a while. Having the gardener come in and do some upkeep in there, that's okay, isn't it?
Yes. Under level 3, it will be possible for some of those providers to come back, but it will be very much up to them to ensure that they are observing their physical distancing rules in doing that. So your building manager, if you have one, or perhaps the chair or a member of the committee who volunteers to do that, should have a conversation with your gardening provider to find out what they're planning to do in terms of those physical distancing rules, and ensure that they are operating safely in that regard. In some of the complexes, we do know that a lot of owners have been doing a bit of the gardening themselves, of course. So key thing will be to make sure, if that's been happening, that there's an appropriate level of communication to owners so that people don't kind of wind up bumping into each other accidentally.
Very good. Actually, just coming back inside the complex, some complexes do have laundries and communal cooking spaces.
Yeah.
Should those sort of be closed off, or are they able to be used?
Look, those are areas that are kind of necessary for the fundamentals of life, so they've probably still been in use through level 4. Again, though, you need to observe physical distancing, so 1 in, 1 out. With the kitchen areas, possibly with, maybe in a roster to ensure that you are not all trying to use the kitchen at the same time. Good cleaning practices and good disinfecting practices after use is really important as well.
Okay. So just come back to the conversation we had around bubbles. One of the things that the government has talked about is being able to extend your bubbles slightly to other family, etc.
Mm-hmm.
In doing that, you may get more visitors into your complex. Is that okay? And should we have a visitors register under level 3? Sorry.
Yeah, you're right, Victor. That sort of mild expansion of the bubble is quite possible. You're allowed to perhaps expand your bubble to include a carer for children who might be coming in during the day. So yes, that is a possibility. I know a number of complexes have adopted visitor registers, and this is a good practice. They talk a lot also about contact tracing. So always being able to identify who has been in contact with whom, so that if anybody does develop an issue, you can work out exactly who you've been in contact with. Generally, that's going to be down to close contacts, but keeping a register of who has come in and out of complexes, particularly if they're coming in to provide servicing. As part of your body corporate servicing practices, monitoring those people is probably a really good idea. However, some people, ideally you'd want to do that in a contactless way, so you're not passing the same exercise book back and forth between several people. We're investigating a few options around that contactless registration, like the ones, for example, Faro are using, where you log in on, I think it's called HQ, but at the moment that's just for essential services. Trying to find some sort of contactless way people can actually do that to make it a little bit easier and avoid, again, just people touching lots of services that other people have touched previously.
Yeah, contact tracing is really quite important to stop the spread and to help the health authorities to be able to find out who else gets contacted if somebody does unfortunately get hit with the virus. I guess that sort of leads on to vulnerable residents. How does that look in level 3?
So vulnerable residents should still be staying indoors. It's still an incredibly important part of protecting them, that they do self-isolate. Many of the complexes that we work with have got processes in place for identifying residents in the complex who need assistance. That's, people have been using WhatsApp groups, Facebook groups, just, communicating through us as the body corporate manager, and we're always happy to help join up those dots, because similarly, lots of people in the complexes have volunteered to assist if there are people who need others to, do shopping for them or run errands, anything like that. So your vulnerable residents, it is like, it's a community, right? So we want to be looking after the most vulnerable members of our community and helping them to do shopping and things like that. It's a really cool part of being part of a community. Again, though, it's still really important to keep that in a contactless fashion. Leave groceries at their door, don't go into their homes, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, actually, we have a Facebook group on for our street, and people kindly volunteer to do the shopping for the vulnerable, which is really helpful in keeping everyone in contact with what's going on in the community. Because, as you say, it is a community, and it's important to be supportive in there.
Yeah.
With level 3, there is going to be an expansion of more businesses being available, contactless. McDonald's is going to open up, so my daughters are going to be extremely happy about all of that. And I guess with all of that trading, there'll be a lot more couriers coming around in level 3. Practices there, I mean, they've been there in level 4. Do you expect them to be the same in level 3?
I think there could be a little bit of an upsurge in contactless delivery, sort of Uber Eats at dawn at the front door potentially. Could be a lot of people sitting around waiting to take orders for pizza at 11:59 p.m, I suspect. So, look, I think that's a really, it'll be quite important to sort of, you need a way of managing those contactless deliveries. It's worth having a conversation with your fellow owners. For some complexes, it's reasonably easy in terms of they've got intercoms and things like that. But, we talked earlier about keeping your bubbles separate. We've adopted in our complex a 1 bubble per lift policy, which if, you've got dozens of you running down at 6:30 or 11:59 p.m. to fetch your pizza, may mean you're going to need to use the stairs. So think those processes through in terms of who is going to, how you manage it. And again, it's, those courier drivers should not be coming into the complex into the door of the apartments. They should be leaving them in a lobby or leaving them out, making contact with you by phone. So you go and they wait, put the stuff down, and you go out and grab it. They shouldn't be coming indoors to make those deliveries.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. As you're thinking about contactless, I guess one of the other images that is often that I've seen a lot of on TV and as I'm walking around is people wearing masks and wearing gloves. Within complexes, do you think everyone should be wearing masks and gloves while they're in their complex?
I mean, look, it's a personal choice. I don't think the masks are actually strictly necessary within the complex, unless you yourself are ill. If you are coughing or spluttering, that would be a really polite, sort of thing to do for your fellow residents. Would be to wear the mask. By and large, the time that you're spending in the communal areas, in any kind of proximity to other people, should be relatively low. So. You shouldn't need to be wearing masks. Though they are recommended, say in workplaces where I'm here and you're there and we're sort of a few metres away from each other, but I don't believe they're going to be strictly essential in complexes. When it comes to the gloves, that's a personal choice in terms of if you're particularly concerned about the the high touch areas in the lobby, for example. But the gloves can be a little bit counterproductive because we kind of go, yay, I've got gloves on, I'm fine, touch, wipe hands on face. You've just done the same thing in terms of transferring anything that was picked up by the glove to your face. So again, that kind of the best defense really is, washing your hands frequently. If you're going to use gloves and masks, make sure that you use them appropriately.
Yeah, I can totally see how wearing gloves can give you that false sense of security, but like you say, you're actually doing the same thing. If I could just turn my mind now to around sales. Obviously, as we've moved into level 4, there's been a halt on that. So for open homes, for sales and for rentals, in level 3, what does that look like?
Okay, so there's still a little bit lack of clarity around some of the detail on the sales process. Open homes are definitely not going to be a thing. We won't be seeing sort of, large-scale open homes. There is still a question over whether there will be, whether private viewings are something that are going to be a thing or not, as in sort of bringing one person through a property at a specific time. That's still work in progress in terms of determining where that one lands. And that's something that we're working on as a real estate agency ourselves and working with our regulator just to try and get some clarity on. We'll be posting that kind of info on our FAQ as we get clarity on it. So you won't be seeing open homes. For us as a sales agent, as a property manager, we will potentially be using technology a lot more to show properties. So, we'll be doing video walkthroughs. Obviously, we already do photography, so that once upon a time, if you're interested, back in pre-COVID days, if you're interested in a property, the property manager or real estate agent might hold a viewing, and 10, 20 people could turn up and tour it. The process we're adopting is kind of the opposite way around. We'll have the properties online. People will be able to have a look at them, talk to us, go through the video fly through. Then if they're interested, they'll work through a process with us. If they view, it will only be as the last step in the process. And that's if the viewings are permitted under level 3. So you're not going to be seeing, sort of short answer, you're not going to be seeing en masse viewings. You may see small, limited numbers of inspections. Because there are a lot of people who need somewhere to live right now, and there's quite a few vacant properties. So
yeah, just speaking about that, vacant properties and filling those, so people able to move in and out of properties?
Yes, under level 4, it has not been possible for people to move in and out of properties, except for some really, really limited circumstances which really related to personal safety primarily. It will be possible under level 3. Again, under physical distancing processes and under very carefully controlled circumstances, but it will again be possible for people to move in and out of properties. So some of those tenancy moves and home moves will be able to get restarted again.
Okay. When we were in level 4 construction work, there were a number of complexes that had some construction work being done on them. Some of them had remedial work, and under level 4 that obviously came to a halt. Do you see that changing in level 3?
Yes, very much so, and look, that's a really good point. So under level 3, construction firms are able to remobilise. That needs to be very carefully controlled, particularly if they're working in and around a complex where over the last month or so, everybody's gotten used to there not being construction on site. So the health and safety implications of that are incredibly important. If you've got if you've got a construction project of any sort on your site, then there will be some kind of management committee or management process around that. You should have a project manager. They should be working through the process with your construction company to make sure that they are mobilising in a safe fashion, and that the processes around both COVID and construction safety are both being addressed appropriately, because the laws of gravity haven't been suspended just because we're now working under 2 metre separation concerns. And it's a really important thing, because kind of coming back to site, people are out of practice, out of the groove. It's incredibly important that occupants of the building know that that work is going to restart and under what conditions, and that the fences will be there, and there will again be people behind them going tickety tap tap. So that is something that's really important to have your body corporate or your complex think through, talk through, and then make sure they've communicated to all of the owners and potential visitors to the complex.
Yeah, I mean, with construction, that would have stopped in level 4, and then there would have been a fair bit of extra cost that would have had to be attached to that. And the last thing you want in level 3 is your contractors not adhering to health protocols or construction protocols, and then having to be shut down again, could be quite a costly exercise. So I can see how that is quite important to make sure that complexes do keep a close eye on that and make sure that all the correct protocols are followed. Just one last question. Running contactless events. We do that inside of our complexes?
How contactless they are. I have seen some magnificent footage of some complex. So I think everybody standing in the driveway for Anzac Day morning may be a little difficult to observe the physical distancing rules, but everybody standing on their balcony and joining in on some of the events that are going to be broadcast. I think Radio New Zealand is going to be having The Last Post played at 5:55 a.m. So I think events like that, you can all stand on your balconies, put your radios outside and participate in that. We've seen people participating in the Clap for Cares or Clap for Carers, or applauding the essential services events. I think that kind of stuff's fantastic, and I really encourage complexes to do that sort of stuff. Organise it through your private Facebook groups, your WhatsApp group, etc. But I think those kind of events are great. Be very careful about kind of congregating in a place, because I think you could the temptation or the possibility of breaching those physical distancing rules is quite high. But on your own balcony, doing the outdoor thing, I think that's a great idea.
Cool. Actually, just one last thought around this. We showed the prompt list at the start of this webinar. Communicating that to your complex. Some thoughts on how to best do that.
Look, that's obviously going to be a horses for courses kind of a thing. In your smaller complexes, it might be possible to run, a video chat or a Google Hangout, etc., with your neighbours. However, you can do that through us as your BC secretary as well. So if a group of you have worked through it and you've got a committee, we can circulate that to all owners so that they're aware of the things that you've thought about. But I think, again, that kind of point of communicating it around the complex is a really good idea. Bigger complexes, particularly where you have a lot of tenants who may not be on owners' lists, getting your building manager to put some kind of appropriate signage in lifts and common areas is a really great idea as well.
Okay, cool. I think those are really all the questions that I've wanted to sort of get some answers to. I'm just on the time front, we've sort of hit the 30-minute mark, which I think is what we were planning to have this for. Not sure if there are any other thoughts that you wanted to share, Helen?
Look, just I suppose one of the points that we did talk about today was just, again, every complex is different. So we may not have touched on any, there may be something about your complex which is particularly different, which we haven't touched on today. I guess the key thing I'd sort of prompt you, or sort of suggest that you think about, just anything that you've got which is which is a high touch, a lot of people are going to be interacting with it. Those are the kind of things that you need to think about, how you're managing them, whether or not that changes from level 4 to level 3. So that sort of would be the key there. I can also go to a couple of the questions that I have here. Somebody said, quite keen to hear your opinion on which COVID level it is appropriate for landlords to undertake inspections of properties. I'll answer this from the point of view of us as a property manager. We will not be restarting physical inspections of properties at level 3. We have been at level 4 and will continue at level 3 to do our routine inspections by photograph. So basically what we're doing is we have the last inspection of the property, so we've got a good idea of where the kind of pain points are. You know, that property, the curtains might be getting mouldy. There's been an issue in the, you know, with the bathroom light. We'll get in touch with the tenant, get them to talk through, you know, and talk that through with them, get them to take photographs and send those back to us, and then we maintain the records of that. Something we cleared with the Insurance Council, obviously. Right now it's not possible to go and physically do those inspections, so, you know, we haven't yet decided whether or not we'll go back to doing them at level 2. We did brief time that we were on level 2. Previously, we did actually also stop inspections at that point as well. So I'm not sure if we'll restart at level 2 or not. So in the interim, we are using that photographic method, and so far that seems to be working reasonably well for us. So we've done that one. I'll click that as answer live. Hopefully you have time to talk about what happens if your tenants have provided notice to move out once we get to alert 3 and searching for new tenants within alert 3. Okay, so I think we did touch on this earlier. We will be advertising properties for rent under level 3, but as I said, with very, very limited physical inspections, if at all. That last point of whether any physical inspection will be possible is something that we're expecting guidance on in the next couple of days, and we'll be updating our clients on that as it goes through. Next question, can you put the prompt list back on the screen? We'll pop that up. We'll be emailing that to you, so you'll get that shortly. Really interesting question here about legislation allowing AGMs to be conducted by Zoom or in person. Again, the process, Vic, you can probably talk to the process that we have adopted here, which is around using the proxies as well as the Zoom meeting in terms of the voting. And then I can talk to the piece, I can talk to some work that's going on in the space around clarifying the legality on that issue.
Yeah, okay, Helen. Yeah, so with regards to a number of these meetings, committee meetings and AGMs, we've our owners have the options of, so we've sent out proxy forms for them to complete and send through, and also postal voting forms that they can use to send through. Having done that, they're also able to attend the meetings, which we've been running virtual meetings via Microsoft Teams. We've had quite a wide range of owners that have come to those from a demographics perspective, from the relatively, I guess, the millennials sort of profile through to the more elderly, and by and large, everyone seems to have picked up on the technology quite quickly. And in fact, a number, specifically in particular for a number of the committee meetings that we've held, a lot of the attendees have said, look, I think moving forward, this is the best way to do things, because it cuts down travel time. It works just as well as when you're doing it face to face, and we record the meetings as well to make sure that the minutes that we do are accurately recorded, and then we send those out as we do the virtual meetings. So
send out the minutes. We're not sending out the recordings, are we?
No, we're not sending out the recording. That's correct. We just use, because when you're in a virtual meeting and you're talking through things, sometimes you know, it can be a little bit tricky trying to stay focused in the virtual world while you're also trying to keep the minutes. So yes,
you mean multitasking, but you're saying you struggle with multitasking.
Yes, that's correct. My multitasking skills are chewing gum while walking, and that's pretty much it.
It's advanced.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what we've been doing in the with regards to AGM meetings through level and committee meetings through level 4, and we'll continue to do through level 3.
And look, we understand that the issue, clarify, making it, there are several, there's a school of thought that says that the provisions in the Companies Act do allow for, people to be present at a meeting in this fashion. And we have been working with a number of parties, including regulators, to get some clarity on that point. And we have every reason to believe that that will actually be formally addressed and with some guidance in the very near future. So we're pretty comfortable about that. And look, it's a really logical way of running meetings in the, what are we up to, 21st century? Right, let me just flick to a couple more of the questions. Question, I had a new tenant who was going to move in the week of lockdown but was told to stay where she was. I missed out on 4 weeks' rent due to lockdown. Does the government subsidy cover rental property? Unfortunately, at this stage, no, we've not seen any subsidy for either rental or commercial property. Thus far, the only direct subsidies that we've seen have been the wage subsidies. So unfortunately, that won't be possible. But sorry, that's not something that we've seen that's been available. I do know the issue around commercial rent is something that the retail sector in particular continues to raise as an issue. But again, at this point, there's nothing we can point you to in respect of that. Next question, are private apartment cleaners allowed under level 3? And the answer to that is no, they wouldn't be allowed under level 3. They'd be coming into your bubble, and I guess the view is just that it's taking a little bit too far. So cleaning of common areas is okay, but probably not appropriate under level 3 to restart having a cleaner in your personal apartment. Okay. Do you think we'll see more people wanting to drive vehicles into the city rather than use public transport to keep in their bubbles? And will this give rise to car park demand? It's a really good point, actually. With regard to the, a lot of people are going to want to avoid using public transport, I suspect. And so, yeah, I think we could well see the levels of commuting rise. Might be more of an issue once we get to level 2, because under level 3, there's probably still, the structure is still, if you can work from home, you should. Most of our team will not be working in the office, they're still working at home. So I think there'll be a lot of businesses who are still not on the road, but that whole question of public transport getting crowded is something that's definitely likely to come up. Okay. Could the next webinar, here we go, could the next webinar please start at 5 p.m. so we're done by new time? Okay. So, question there about, as a landlord, how can I satisfy the requirements of my insurer during lockdown? Best way, of course, is to have us as your property manager. But the alternative, as I spoke about earlier, what we're doing is keeping the photographic, getting the tenant to take photographs of the materials, the things we know are high touch or high issue, and getting them to photograph those, and keeping the email correspondence that we have with the tenant about any issues that arise, and saving those in our system along with the photographs as a record for the future if it's necessary. Okay. The news is on. Oh. Yeah. Winker Media, we've put work again. We've done that. What cost is there to Microsoft Teams? That is, we have Microsoft Teams as part of the wider suite of Microsoft products that we run to run our office. You can download the app for free if we are sending you the link as a user, and you can also use the web version, and those are available free. There is a cost to having all of the Microsoft products. Apart from anything else, you're signed up with the Evil Empire, but they have come in tremendously handy. So I have to give them a little bit of credit for that, don't I, Vic?
Yep. No, they have been very, very useful. And the team of, Crocker's team internally, and as I mentioned before, our owners and clients have also found them, quite user-friendly. Yeah.
Cool. Question here, what might be expected of body corporate committees and Crockers to cooperate with health authorities regarding any requirement for contact tracing? Well, the obvious point is, from a point of view of protection of health and safety of all of us, including our entire community, full cooperation, I think, is the short answer to that one. Under the state of emergency and the various public health emergency rules, there are good legal bases for committees and Crockers to cooperate on that basis, but, simple point of view of we all want to contain and eradicate this virus. Someone was to fall ill and we hadn't assisted in that process, you'd obviously want to help out with that. But as I understand it, all the legalities of that are really well covered under the emergency legislation that we're operating under. Because let's face it, under normal circumstances, we can't just tell people to stay home. But look at us, we are all doing it. Hey Vic, we've only got a couple more minutes to go. Are there any other kind of majors that you thought were kind of key to cover on the last few questions I've been chatting about?
No, nothing really comes to mind, Helen, thanks.
I've got one last question here, which I will address because, can you clarify how many you can extend your bubble by? Some people have large immediate whānau. There's some really good direction on this stuff on the COVID-19 .govt.nz website. Short answer is not by the complete whānau, sadly, because I have a very large extended whānau as well. We worked out that if we had a wedding service of 10 people, we'd have to leave out most of the family. So some people, that may be a great reason for getting married right now, but kind of depends on how you view your family, doesn't it, Vic?
Yeah, very true.
Hey, look, thank you all so much for being with us tonight. It's been great to be able to run this webinar for you. We hope it has been useful to you. Leilani, do you want to flick up that last slide that we have, which has got a few points of the last directives? As I said, we will be providing the prompt list tomorrow, and we'll be providing this recorded webinar to everybody who attended, or a link to it, to everybody who has attended and who asked for it. They'll get the prompt list. We'll try and address a few more of the FAQs on our website. Do also check out our property management sections, because quite a few of the questions we've seen here tonight have also been in respect of landlords. So our property management team have got a number of those covered off in our COVID-19 updates, which are on our website as well. Thank you all very much. Victor, thank you so much for your participation. It's great to see you.
Thank you, Helen, and thank you everyone else for showing up. It's fantastic to have so much interest.
Yeah, and look, we'll be running more of these in a new world and in another life again. Hopefully one day we'll actually get around to doing the community living basics, but at this point we're community living and Zoom experts, so perhaps we don't need the basics quite so much anymore. Anyway, thank you very much. Kia ora, good night, kia kaha.
Good night, everyone.